Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a long time coming, but the PowerBomb Nation is officially back. And what better time to be back than the road to WrestleMania? It is in full swing, and we got some great stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling. But hey, that's not what this episode's about. This episode is about the PowerBomb Nation. All of you out there who have supported me over the years since, say, 2015. We greatly appreciated your patience with us here at the PowerBomb Nation, and we're so glad that we are back. And not only are we back with the podcast, we're also back with a YouTube channel. So we're not only going to be in your earbuds, we're going to be in your eyeballs. We are tickling all the senses here at PowerBomb Nation. So for those of you who don't know, in the year, picture it, Kentucky, 2015, July, hot as hell outside, and Chris Silvio becomes Ohio Valley Wrestling Champion. Shortly after the debut of Kevin Owens on Raw, where he powerbombed John Cena. As a lifelong wrestling fan, I got the idea, hey, I would love to be involved in the wrestling industry in some form, even if it's just a passionate hobby, so to speak. So I got the idea, hey, I've always wanted to be a journalist too. I'm a car salesman. Love my job, and always wanted to be a journalist though. So I got a recorder, said, hey, told my wife, hey, do you mind if I go and pursue this dream that I have? Of course, she stood behind me 100%. So I was been a wrestling fan since the early 80s. Randy Savage was my first favorite professional wrestler. My current all-time favorite wrestler is Mr. Chris Jericho. Love a good tag team match. Love to watch professional wrestling. Love to talk about professional wrestling. Check all the boxes up and down, left to right, forward to back. As a professional wrestling fan, I will watch any form of wrestling when it is on, even Olympic wrestling, college wrestling, doesn't matter. I enjoy the sport for what it is. And yes, I did say sport. So 2015 hit, I grab a $15 recorder and create a Twitter page. That's how the PowerBomb Nation started. This is how it's going to continue. So about a year into the initial start of the PowerBomb Nation, man, we're cooking on all cylinders. We've had everyone from Chris Silvio, we've had Teddy Long, we've had the Patriot, Del Wilkes, former WWF champion. We've ran the gamut with people we've talked to here on the PowerBomb Nation. We've been on a few other podcasts, given our opinion about WWE pay-per-views and things like that. Then I had a daughter. Apple of my eye. Pride of my life. She needed the time. I got a promotion at work. Needed the dedication and the my full-on attention, blinders on, ready to go. Therefore, I had to slow down on the podcasting. I would do a few episodes here and there, but it didn't feel right. It was a little half-assed. And to me, if you're going to do something, if you're going to put the passion and the motivation in behind it, you need to be ready to go full time. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to bring it back full circle. We're relaunching the PowerBomb Nation. It is official as of right now. The podcast and the YouTube channel. The podcast is back. The YouTube channel is on. It's the road to WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen. We are in our car. We have the doors shut. We have the music turned up loud. And we are heading down that road to WrestleMania. We've got Fastlane in the rear view mirror, thank goodness. But that's neither here nor there. Stay tuned with us over the next few weeks. Leading up to WrestleMania, you're going to get a lot of extra coverage. We might have a surprise or two that might tickle your funny bone, get you all pumped up and jazzed up for WrestleMania. Man, the card is stacked. I don't care what you say about the build. The card is really good. So we got that going on. So what I want to do in the meantime is, what better way to relaunch the PowerBomb Nation than with our first ever interview. Shortly after winning the Ohio Valley Wrestling Championship, I reached out to Mr. Chris Silvio. He was gracious enough to meet me a couple weeks later after an OVW taping in Louisville, Kentucky. We sat down at a local B-Dubs, a fine establishment of chicken and beer, and we had ourselves a little conversation. And that conversation was fantastic. Chris Silvio, to this day, remains a good friend of mine, a loyal alumni to the PowerBomb Nation. He digs power bombs, ladies and gentlemen. He likes to give them. Without further ado, make sure you stay tuned. Thursdays look to be the night for the podcast release for a glorious weekend. I've missed being in the saddle, ladies and gentlemen. But without further ado, let's head back in time to July of 2015 and listen to the first ever episode of the PowerBomb Nation. Back in time. It worked on Wayne's World. I don't know if it's working here or not.
If they know me, it's very fitting.
All right, PowerBomb Nation, we are here with the OVW World Heavyweight Champion, the psychedelic superstar, Chris Silvio. Chris, I have to say first, congratulations on beating Eddie Diamond in the TLC match to win the first title. How does it feel?
Well, thanks for the congratulations. How's it feel? Not surprising. I'm not shocked. I'm Chris Silvio. I'm one of the best of the best. But you know what? It feels almost as good as being a guest for the first time on PowerBomb Nation. I mean, I dig power bombs. I like to power bomb people.
Nice. Had a great match tonight, and you are the first official alumni member of PowerBomb Nation. Was this the sweetest win you've had to date? Is this the sweetest title run you're going to have?
What, the match against Diamond or the match tonight when I whipped Adam Wild's ass?
Well, let's say all the matches, just encompassing your title reign. How long are you going to hold on to the OVW Championship?
Well, I guess it just depends on how long I want to hold on to it. Is this the best you're going to see from me? No way. Every match, I honestly think I get a little bit better. So every time you see Chris Silvio in the ring, the match is going to be a little bit different than before. And might sound cliche or whatever, but every time you see me, performance is going to get better and better. So hell no, I'm not done by a long shot. If you like what you see now, just wait a month or wait 2 months. We're going to have 500 people clamoring out that building every night.
Nice. Well, the PowerBomb Nation is definitely going to be on your side. We are going to get you guys some good press here. So I know in some of the interviews that I've listened to and some of your podcasts that you actually have done in the past, I noticed that you're born to wrestle, and that was obvious by your match tonight. I mean, it was, like I said, it was great stuff out there. But I also see you're real big into your brand, your Chris Silvio brand. Like I said, you had the podcast, and I've seen you had a marketing and events company. Do you care to tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. As far, I guess that's kind of like a 2 or 3 part question, bro. As far as being born to wrestle, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear stories about like musical prodigies that started playing piano at 2 or something like that. I literally started wrestling in diapers. I grew up with older brothers. I grew up on wrestling mats and watching professional wrestling on TV. Pretty much trained and worked out my whole life. has been the one constant my whole life is pro wrestling. So a lot of stuff changes, you know, like growing up, I have a military family, so sometimes it requires you to move. I got a lot of respect for the military, by the way, so any veterans, I like to consider myself a patriotic dude, so thanks to you guys if you're out there listening. But yeah, it's just one of those things where some people are born to fight in wars, some people are born to play in a rock and roll band. I was born to be a rock star that wrestles in a wrestling ring. As far as my brand, you got to promote yourself in this industry. There's nobody that's going to just put your name out there and do your business for you. So if you're coming up in this business and you're waiting for people to book you and you're waiting for people to put money in your hand, that's not going to work. You create your own brand just like anything else. The Chris Silvio brand's really no different than Nike or UFC or anything like that, except for the fact that those guys are making several million more dollars than I am right now. As far as my company, Round Peg Promotions, that's something that I started around about a year ago. What we do is we assist people in putting on the best possible events. We work with state-of-the-art lighting and staging and productions. We believe if you're going to put on an event, it's got to be huge. It's got to have razzle-dazzle, lights, the sound's got to be right, the atmosphere's got to be jumping. Otherwise, why is somebody going to come to your event over someone else's? So it really doesn't matter what you're trying to do. You put on wrestling shows, concerts. If you want to throw a sweet bar mitzvah, hit me up online, csilviobookings@gmail.com. We'll hook you up. Additionally, I run talent management for a lot of wrestlers in the industry, models, stuff like that. So if you want to book some really talented, good-looking females, or you want some really awesome guys to come out and wrestle on your show, just hit me up. We handle that. We do marketing for several businesses online, so kind of an all-around type of thing, man. To be perfectly honest, I probably work about 70 hours a week, and when you throw in having wrestling matches on top of that and training, it's a wonder I ever get to sleep, but it's cool, man. I love it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I mean, I know what it's like to pull a 70 hours a week, but I'm not putting my body through the pain and suffering that you put yours through.
Well, that's because you're smart. You're over here holding a microphone and a pen. That's what a smart guy would do.
So, let me ask you this. What would a typical day, your day off, what would a typical day, if I was to hang out with Chris Silvio, what could I expect to do in a day?
It's all right. That's not that easy. So what day of the week? Are we talking about a Monday? Are we talking about a Saturday? What day of the week?
Let's say a Sunday.
Sunday. Have I wrestled the night before?
Yes.
Okay. Hanging out with Chris Silvio on a Sunday when he's wrestled the night before is going to be pretty lame. I'm probably going to try to sleep till like 10 or 11, which I never ever sleep past like 6:30 a.m. I'm going to lay around for the majority of the day, probably eat something awful because it's Sunday, still find a way to go to the gym because I'm a psycho when it comes to training, and if I'm feeling all right, I'll probably have a few beers, but if you really want to have a good time hanging out with Chris Silvio, I'd reserve that for a Friday or Saturday night.
So what would it be like on a Friday or Saturday?
Well, where are we at? Are we in Louisville? Are we in Lexington?
Let's say we'll keep it here in the hometown of Louisville, Kentucky.
Hometown of Louisville. Well, before we did anything, of course, I would train. I would hit the gym. So let's say on a Friday night, I'd go get a nice pump at the gym, get carbed up, proteined up, and then I'd probably drag you to maybe 7 or 8 bars in Louisville. And I'd go home in very good shape, and you would probably go home in a taxi cab or an ambulance, and you may or may not wake up with your wife's foot in your ass, and that'll probably be the last time you go out with me, but it will be worth the experience.
Hey, one wild night, right?
Sure, well, routine, but yeah, wild for some.
So now I also understand you consider yourself a classic cinema buff. Is that correct?
Yeah, man, I study art of every genre. being a professional wrestler is, I guess, maybe a fifth of my personality. I think above that, I'm an artist. I've studied music. It's been one of my lifelong passions. I've studied cinemas. I've actually written, I've written books. I've written scripts for screenplays, things like that. But studying movies is, a lot of people that watch my work in a wrestling ring always kind of identify with it, that there's something different, and they always enjoy something about my style or my body language or how I move. A lot of that comes from just watching great actors and watching good films. So I particularly like to study the villains and the psychopaths in movies. Go figure. That's a lot of the Chris Silvio persona. But I like to, there's an emotion when you see a very strong character on screen. There's just something that draws you to him, and you can't take your eye away from him. So I'll mimic that. If I'm driving down the road, you know, I'll try to speak in the tone of that character. I'll walk around my house with a certain tick or moving my arms or my hands in a certain way. And aside from that, I just enjoy the art of cinema. It's one of my favorite art forms, and I've always said there's not a movie that I cannot sit through. I mean, you can throw like the worst. It could be like a Mary-Kate Ashley Olsen movie from 1992, no substance, whatever. I may not dig it, but I can pretty much sit through any movie. So don't put me to that challenge, please, if you're listening. Don't send me a bunch of god-awful DVDs, because I don't have time for that. But yeah, I'm a big movie guy. Favorite movies, I'd say, would include True Romance, written by Quentin Tarantino. Goodfellas, I'm a big Martin Scorsese guy.
Nice.
I recently watched Taxi Driver for the 57th time the other night. But yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff.
Excellent. And I do have to ask you, you call yourself a Coors Light enthusiast. Is that still the case?
Absolutely. I'm being fancy tonight. Tonight we're at a local Buffalo Wild Wings establishment, and I went with Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy.
Nice choice.
It's summertime. I had a tough match. It's got a little sweet kick to it. Not too sweet, but sweet enough. But yeah, otherwise the beer of choice is Coors Light, that's for sure.
Excellent.
What's cool, well, you know, we're not done talking about Coors Light. This should be a significant part of the interview. Coors Light, I mean, the bottle turns blue if it's at the right temperature. What other beverage do you know changes colors and tells you when is the appropriate time to drink it? I mean, that's pretty sweet. You got to admit that.
Right. Most of them that turn colors, it's not the appropriate time to drink them.
Exactly.
So, who would you say inspired you out of anybody in the world? Who inspired you growing up?
As far as pro wrestlers or just anyone in general?
Just anyone in general.
I would probably say Bret Hart might have been the most inspiring guys. Bret's one of my favorite wrestlers, along with Savage and Terry Funk. They'd probably round out my top three. And if you've ever seen my matches, you could probably kind of see some of those influences. What I dug about the Bret Hart character was that he was always fighting. So I think as a kid, I wasn't one of those kind of kids that liked G.I. Joes and necessarily was out looking for heroes or anything like that. I had my interests, but I just wasn't that kind of kid. But something about Bret Hart I really respected what he did. I guess other heroes, maybe I'd say my grandfather's a big influence on me, so he'd be a hero. I thought I'm the youngest of three brothers, so when you got two older brothers, you know, you think they're pretty cool. So that probably about rounds it up, I guess, as far as heroes go.
Awesome, awesome. Good to hear. Now that you mentioned Bret Hart, I can definitely see that from the match you had tonight. And the Randy Savage, you did come off the top rope with an elbow. You pointed up to the sky. Was that a little nod, the flying elbow off the top rope? Is that something you do just in kind of what you've seen of Savage?
Man, I was texting with my buddy, Paradise. Are you familiar with Paradise? He's currently a producer for TNA Impact. He's done a hell of a job. He and I started out in the business together back in about 2001 as a tag team. And what's funny is before our first 50 matches, we had a ritual where the night before we had to watch Savage and Steamboat from WrestleMania 3 in its entirety. This was a ritual. Like, if we didn't do this, our match was... What kind of podcast is this? Is this a whatever podcast, or is this for children? Is it PG?
No, you go full.
Okay, so we thought our match would go to complete dog shit if we didn't watch this match. So we were actually texting last night. He sent me a recent picture of me that a photographer took and commented how I looked like Randy Savage. So I kind of inadvertently always end up looking like Randy Savage or being compared to Randy Savage, and I mean, that's a hell of a compliment when people say you look or work like Savage, because he was the man. So I'll definitely take. It's not. I don't do it purposely, but you know, maybe when I do the elbow, it's an homage to Savage. But I'd say again, it's just as much an homage to Shawn Michaels, because I think my elbow is kind of a little bit more similar to the way Shawn would drop it to Savage, but I don't do it to be like Randy Savage or because I'm thinking of him. It's just something that fits me, and I think I just naturally kind of gravitate towards it. It's weird. Another odd Randy Savage thing is my trainer, who taught me a lot in this industry, Rip Rogers, happened to be trained by Randy Savage and is one of his favorites of all time. Additionally, I got married a couple years back in Florida, in St. Pete, Florida, and the lady that conducted my wedding said, the officiant, she found out I was a wrestler, and she said, hey, I just did a wedding last year for a wrestler. Do you know Randy Savage? I go, oh yeah, I know Randy Savage. So it's kind of this weird 6 degrees of Chris Silvio and Savage. So it's a cool comparison.
Maybe we can get the 6 degrees of Chris Silvio trending on our website. Something for the fans to have a little bit of fun with there.
Hashtag that shit.
That's right. Hashtag everything nowadays. So, since you already mentioned Bret Hart being the biggest wrestling influence on you, what about who inspires you now? Is there anybody that you look up to now, or that you take some direction from at the moment?
I don't know if necessarily like today. Once you're really, I guess, involved and in the trenches as a performer, there might be things that you pick up from others, but I think kind of the way you look at your peers is a little bit different. I'd say now I'm inspired by a lot of people. I think to be really good at anything, if you're an athlete or a musician, actor, you take little pieces of people that you find great and you incorporate that into your game. So the same way I can, I'm out there, recently it was in the news, unfortunately Roddy Piper passed away. I'm actually wearing a Hot Rod shirt for this interview. I'm usually a villain, and every time I step in the ring in a big match and I'm standing across from a babyface, I envision just naturally Roddy Piper in my head, the way that he would kind of stalk the ring, like in his early matches with Hulk Hogan in WWF when they were doing the war to settle the score and all that. And he just had this violent intensity, like, come on, I'm ready. And every time I just, for whatever reason, I think of Piper in that. So I kind of borrow that from him, and in my brain, I just want to be as intense as Roddy. And then, I love Randy Savage's work, so I want to be as physical as Randy Savage. Growing up as a teenager, I really liked Sabu's work, a guy that I had a match with a month ago, and we really, really killed it. And that's kind of a dream come true to work with him. So I just kind of put these little pieces of the puzzle together, Plus, I study all these actors. I study so many films and study countless hours of Jack Nicholson and classic Marlon Brando, just classic actors. And I believe to be a strong performer, it's not just physical. I can go out there and do 100 moves and take 100 bumps. And guess what? Anybody that's a good athlete, they can do the same thing. But that's not what's going to make an audience connect with you. That's not what's going to make you the champion of a company. That's not what's going to make somebody invest in you. It's an emotional connection that you have with an audience and a story that you tell with your body and your body language. So as far as inspirations, there's a lot. I draw from, as much as possible, UFC's big. So I dig George St. Pierre. I think he's one of the best athletes of my time, my generation. I dig Brock Lesnar as an athlete. So you just kind of pick little things and you sprinkle it into a perfect package. If you see something that works, you figure out how to make it work for you. There's a reason why after McDonald's, we got Wendy's, Taco Bell, Burger King, everything else. The hamburger sells, so now people have their different versions of a hamburger. Similar, you know what I mean?
Very good, very good. Now, I have noticed, and I picked up on a whole lot because I really dig it. You're into the tie-dye, you're the psychedelic superstar. And I seen you're wearing a Hot Rod shirt right now, and I did see you put on Twitter you had the tie-dye kilt to go along with the shirt the other night. Great picture, really awesome image, and I grew up a big fan of Hot Rod. I was always a big fan of the heels, and Hot Rod being the ultimate heel. So it was really cool to see that. They always say, especially Chris Jericho always mentions that your best gimmicks are when you're dialed up to 12.
Right.
Would you say the psychedelic superstar is you dialed up to 12?
100%. Everything I do, when I cut a promo, it's not a promo. I'm talking from the heart. The only thing I guess that can be phony about it is if I say something like, I'm going to try to kill you. Because the odds are, maybe I don't like you, but the odds are I'm probably not going to try to actually kill you. I'm going to outperform you for sure if you're in the ring with me. And I'm definitely going to make every effort to win or get myself ahead. But the things I say are the way I feel. If you watch OVW TV and you hear words coming out of my mouth about what I do and why I do it and how I feel about the direction of the company or previous directions, I've been in this business now over 14 years. I'm 31 years old. I've grown up in this business. I've traveled the country. I've traveled the world. I've been dirt poor. I've had negative $20 in my bank account, and I've lived very comfortably. And thankfully right now I continue to do that. So I've got nothing to lose. I kind of do things on my own terms. So really the me you see on television or you hear on this show, I'm honestly one of the realest dudes you're going to find in the industry. There's not much different other than the fact that if I'm not trying to rip your throat out, I'm probably a pretty chill and funny guy to hang out with. But other than that, it's what you see is what you get, man. I grew up a fan of rock and roll. That's another thing, kind of what you're born into. I remember at 3 years old, I had like a leather Van Halen jacket. I don't know where I got it from or what other 3-year-old would have such a thing. But I remember my first favorite band being Guns N' Roses. So I've pretty much been rock and roll my whole life. And around middle school, high school, I really got into, discovered bands for the first time like Grateful Dead and The Doors. First time I heard The Doors, man. Talk about an inspiration. I guess one of my biggest inspirations was Jim Morrison. That's another element in the Chris Silvio persona that you'll see in different aspects if you watch some of the promos, walk to the ring, stuff like that. In high school, I wore nothing but tie-dye shirts. I hung out with the not so reputable crowd, but I was also the captain of the wrestling team, so I hung out with the reputable crowd and getting pulled over by cops all the time, but it's one of those things. So I was definitely on both sides of the fence there. So the whole hippie thing, the anti-establishment thing there's nothing about it to work. It's all reality. It's all who I am.
Oh, that's great, because we love it here at the PowerBomb Nation, and like I said, you're doing some great work. Everything I've seen, you really are a tremendous athlete in and out of the ring. Now, I know you weren't always the psychedelic superstar. Would you care to delve a little further back in your past and let me know about some of the, maybe you and a gentleman named Big Cat, and maybe when you were Susio?
So that started, like a lot of wrestlers of this generation, in the 90s, backyard wrestling was a huge boom, and early 2000s was a huge thing. And read some articles, it'll come up. I don't want to go into the long story of that, but I ended up, I had a friend of a friend and did some backyard wrestling, and the company, like, not the company, but the group, we used to spoof Lucha Libre wrestling, so it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. And so we all came up with Lucha names and costumes. And I'm actually primarily of Puerto Rican descent, so then it wasn't as good, but now I'm pretty proficient in Spanish. So I needed a name for my personality, and I worked at like an embroidery place at the time, and my uncle wanted me to make him like a shirt or something that said the word Susio on it, and I'm trying to think of a wrestling name, and Susio translates to dirty. So as I was making this, I thought of El Sucio, which roughly translates to the dirty one. I thought of this stupid heel character that a 16-year-old kid would think of. But the name kind of stuck, and everybody, and I did, when I turned pro, I did an Italian gimmick, so everybody assumed it was an Italian name, and for the majority, like the next 10 years, people thought my name was actually Susio. Like, my God-given name is actually Christopher. But people assumed my name was Susio. Like, everywhere I established myself in Richmond, Virginia, hung out with people. We had a huge network, a company that we ran, a lot of success out there, but literally everybody thought my name was Susio. So of course, that kind of morphed into different incarnations of it. But I kept that when I got to OVW, and it was actually Jim Cornette, when he came in to take over the book in like 2010. It was kind of funny because we didn't realize it. We had a bunch of guys with one-word names. Susio, Fang, Lowrider, Apoc, guys like that. And Jimmy just didn't like the one-word name. He's like, you should have two names. So that was another thing. I'm sitting down with the book, trying to think of as many names as humanly possible, what I could call myself, because I've gone by this name for the better part of 10 years. So I thought of the closest sounding thing to Susio and something that kind of fit my look, and came up with Silvio. Bounced it off a few people. They seemed to like it. My name's Chris, so okay, there you go. You got a first name, and he is born.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
So now I know you did come out for a long time, and the actual music on your podcast was Black Betty by Ram Jam. Is there a particular story behind that, or is it just a favorite song of yours?
It gets me hyped.
Personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, it's one of those songs where you feel like you're ready to kick some ass when you come out to it. It's got swag. I always like a music. Other than, and once again, if I'm going to claim to be the realest, one of the realest cats in wrestling, I'm not a fan of my current copyright-free music in Ohio Valley Wrestling. So if you're an artist that can make me a little bit more Silvio-esque music, please send that over ASAP. But no, I like coming out to something that I can move to and kind of work my body language as I'm coming out, and it just kind of helps with the performance. But it says a lot to how badass of a performer I am that I could come out to the god-awful song that I currently have at OVW and make it good, so please change that.
So
it's really terrible.
So let me ask you, I know you used to have a valet or a manager or valet that came out with you. It was Mary Jane.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of great managers in history, and you all actually have a few. I noticed you had the ringmaster there tonight, and then you had a gentleman who was with Big John. Both did phenomenal. Yes, Ashcraft. Great job on the outside of the ring. Very well. They engaged the crowd a whole lot. If you could pick any manager in history to be the man behind Chris Silvio, who would it be, or do you even need one?
I would say the best manager would be Bobby the Brain. However, I wouldn't pick Bobby because he was so damn good he would overshadow me. And Bobby Heenan would get all the heat. If you look at any man Bobby Heenan managed, Rick Rude, Andre, these great, awesome performers, Bobby Heenan had way more heat than any of these guys because he was the best. There's no one really better than Bobby Heenan. Behind him, I would say Jim Cornette, but to fit Chris Silvio, maybe somebody like the Grand Wizard, hell of a manager. He did well with Billy Graham, and that's, another guy, obviously, you can probably see some Billy Graham influences in what I do. He was the first guy that really did the whole counterculture thing, and, So maybe I'd say the Grand, though I was managed for years and years by Mo Green, who was phenomenal. He did a stint in WWE. He was my manager in OVW for a while. I really made strong pushes to get him as my manager in Ring of Honor, but the stars just didn't align with that one. So if I could have anyone, I'd say Mo Green, but if we're going to pick like a legend, give me Grand Wizard.
Nice, some good choices there. Now, I know one of your goals was winning the Ohio Valley Championship. You've accomplished that. I know another goal of yours was to have a long-term stint on national TV and one-day WrestleMania. Are those still something that are in the sights of Chris Silvio?
I think every wrestler, if there's one wrestler that says to you, I wouldn't do a WrestleMania or they're too mainstream or whatever, they're lying. Is that something I focus on daily? Honestly, no. I operate a business of my own, and I'm selling my own brand, things like that. So I have a lot going on to where I don't need something like WWE right now to survive and do well for myself. Of course, if I got a call tomorrow to come out and do wrestling, yeah, of course I'll do a damn WrestleMania. I'll do 100 of them. So I think now it's more of a something I would do as opposed to something I'm going to live and die by. What a lot of people in wrestling, unfortunately, you hear a lot of tragedies in professional wrestling because a lot of guys get stuck in a bubble of thinking that they have only one opportunity. And one of the realities of pro wrestling is there are not that many places to go and make a comfortable living. Even if you're on national TV on several products, which I will not name, but you can probably infer which ones, generally you're not making a very comfortable living. It's a very hard business, and you really got to hustle. So a lot of guys don't really know how to react to that. They get down on themselves, and it leads to a lot of issues and long-term problems. And for a while, I think I was kind of a victim to that, where I thought, if I'm not doing this one particular thing, my life isn't right. So I wasn't enjoying, there was a point in time where I was working for 2 to 3 of the biggest companies in the world, and I'm wrestling every weekend. I have a good circle of friends, a great family, and I never really appreciated what was happening because I always thought I should be doing something else and doing something better. So it wasn't until I could actually step back from that and look at, hey man, you were just a kid that watched Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5 and was mesmerized and never thought you'd even be in a wrestling ring. So the fact that you've done the things you became a wrestler. Everybody, when you're growing up, every kid wants to do something. Every kid wants to be a baseball. You ask a child, what do they want to be? They don't say they want to work in an office. They don't say they want to work as a clerk in a gas station. Nothing against those professions. I've done them, and we all have to earn a living. Kids say, I want to be a ball player. I want to be a boxer. I want to be a singer. So there was a time when I realized I wanted to be a wrestler, and I could actually say I did that and I kicked ass doing it. So my outlook on life at 31 years old is a lot more different than it was several years ago, where my mind was kind of one track. I'm at the point in my life where I can appreciate the things in life and where I'm at. So no, I don't. I'd like to experience things, but do I hunger, am I not satisfied with where I am right now? Absolutely not. I'm satisfied living the life I live. I have a pretty sweet life.
Nice. That's good to hear. I know what you mean. You got to sit down and follow your dreams. It's awesome that you were able to do that. It's one of the things I always look back. I pound the lot every day. Selling cars and pushing that metal and all that stuff.
Work, man.
It is. And
someone's got to do it though, right?
That's right. Everybody's got to drive something somewhere. So it's really great when I can sit down and talk to somebody that got to realize their dream, especially a dream that we would have shared in common back in the day. But you get over the hill and life goes on, and we are where we are, right? But now, when I sit down with you a year from now, because like I said, you're the first alumni for the PowerBomb Nation, so I do hope we get a return interview. Where do you see yourself in a year or so from now?
PowerBomb Nation Hall of Fame, inductee number 1.
Excellent, excellent.
Man, a year from now, I see myself drawing large crowds wherever I go. I see Round Peg Promotions beginning an international launch. I have several markets where we're trying to take our product and our services. Those include the States, Canada, and Europe. So I see international launch of Round Peg Promotions, and honestly, my aim right now is hustling. I'm 31 years old. I think I'm pretty much gained a level of expertise in the sports entertainment industry. I've done every role that there is, from wrestling to booking to taking tickets to promoting to sweeping floors to cleaning bathrooms. I cleaned up fake poop on a television taping one time. I've literally done every job you can, so I think it put me in an overqualified position to do business in this industry. Aside from that, I'm a hustler, man. I'm one of the hungriest dudes you'll meet. I can't really stop at success. There has to be more success. It's just the way I operate,
Well, excellent. Well, we definitely look forward to keeping an eye on you, Chris. Checking out OVW every Wednesday, and you all seem to do a lot on Saturday night as well.
Saturday night specials. First Saturday of every month in Louisville. If you like the OVW product, come check out the Saturday night specials because they're always off the hook. I will say this too. The OVW product over the last several months has gotten so much better and more exciting with the inclusion of some new talents, and the company as a whole is just going in a different direction where it's becoming contemporary, and that's something I personally feel that OVW lacked for a long period of time. I think they were kind of operating really no different than they did in 1997 to how they operate in 2015, and everything changes. Movies change, music change, styles change, the way girls dress change, the way dudes dress change. So wrestling needs to evolve and change as well. And a lot of people I've heard that love OVW, and I've heard some criticisms about the lack of depth and ingenuity. So on this show, if I have a forum to say it, check it out. I'll put the current OVW product, I'll put it on par with a lot of what you see out there today, and I think it competes very, very well.
Oh man, I'll agree with that. What I saw tonight, I would put on par with the stuff that I see on Wednesday nights by far. It was really, really good stuff. If you're in the Louisville area or in the Kentucky area, Indiana, Ohio, surrounding states, make the drive down. Check out these guys at Ohio Valley Wrestling.
$5.
Right, $5. You can't beat that for $5. $20 got me and my family in.
Beat my ass and Adam Wild's ass for $5. Put on the best match you're going to see all week, even if you watch Raw. No offense, Vince, because I'm a huge fan of Vince McMahon as well, but it's awesome. Saturday Night Special is only $10. Can't beat it.
That's a hell of a steal there. Chris, do you got any parting words for the rest of PowerBomb Nation?
Man, that's kind of a broad statement.
Yes, it is.
I do wish PowerBomb Nation the best of success. I want to thank everybody that supports the pro wrestling industry because, like me and my man running the show, wrestling's one of those things that if you don't get it, you never will. You love it, and if you love it, you'll defend it till the day you die. Wrestling fans, I love them, even though they can piss me off at times saying some of the dumbest stuff online. Y'all better control yourselves online. And especially the other night with the Paige thing, y'all leave that girl alone. She's cute. She ain't the world's greatest talker, but she's damn good. So, and she's cute, so cut her some slack. But no, all jokes aside, I love the wrestling fans, and thank you guys for just supporting. Because of you, I get to do what I love to do. And because of people like me, generations, the wrestlers when I was a kid got to do what they love to do, because I begged my dad to buy me a ticket. And he took me to every show in the Richmond Coliseum. So it just keeps on going. One day I'll have kids, and the guys that come after me when I'm older and can't go anymore, you know, they're going to be the guys that drive the business, and I'll gladly buy a ticket to support them. So thank you guys. Check me out on Twitter at the Chris Silvio. You can see a lot of cool stuff on there. I don't recommend hanging out on my Twitter if you're like under maybe 15 years of age. Parental discretion is advised. I have a Facebook page I do not operate. I have a web operator that does that. I believe it's Chris Silvio on Facebook. So check it out. It'll be updated. But if you want to reach me, get at me on Twitter, because I'm always on Twitter. If you want to book me for appearances, anything like that, or contact Round Peg Promotion for our various services, C Silvio, that's CSILVIO, bookings@gmail.com. I have my phone on me 24 hours a day, and I'm usually up 20 hours a day, so it'll come right to me on my phone, and even the dumb emails I usually respond to, so have some fun with that.
Excellent. Well, guys, I was going to ask you to put yourself over, but you already took care of that. You let everybody know how to. You got to, right? Got to establish that brand. Well, Chris, we definitely thank you for sitting down with us today, and thank you so much for your time. Keep up the great work, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Cool. Good luck, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.